Imagine you're jolted awake at 3 a.m., sirens blaring, alerts lighting up your phone, the sky glowing with explosions. That's not a nightmare. It's what thousands are living through right now in the Middle East.
The 2026 Iran war isn't just another headline, it's the story of real people caught between governments and missiles. I'm Siddharth, and together with Alex, we're digging into a tough question. Was this war truly unavoidable?
On today's episode, we'll break down the roots of the conflict, ask if war could have been avoided, explore the dangers of escalation, and consider how this crisis could ripple across the globe.
Stick with us, because by the end, you'll have a clearer sense of why these decisions matter far beyond the battlefield and what's really at stake for all of us.
Let's rewind a bit, Siddharth. For years, Iran's nuclear ambitions and the suspicions around them have been a flashpoint. But there were talks, sanctions, and even brief moments of hope. Was there a real path away from conflict?
There absolutely was. Diplomacy was always on the table, sometimes fragile, sometimes frustrating, but real. At different points, both Iran and Western countries sat down and hammered out deals. But fear and mistrust kept eroding those breakthroughs.
It almost sounds like a game where every side keeps one foot out the door, just waiting for the other to blink.
That's a pretty good way to put it. Every time negotiations stalled, hardliners on all sides said, "See, the other side can't be trusted." That cycle of suspicion made it easy for talk of war to grow louder.
But here's the thing. Some leaders claim that waiting any longer would have been reckless. They argue that Iran's growing arsenal was too risky to ignore. Is there ever a point where striking first actually makes sense?
I get why that argument pops up, especially in high-stakes situations. Leaders worry about being the one who waited too long. But the instant missiles launch, that logic shifts. Security for one group usually means fear and chaos for everyone else, especially ordinary families.
It's a brutal trade-off. You might feel safer by acting, but suddenly, millions are facing blackouts, shelters, and endless sirens.
And history shows that wars meant to prevent something worse often unleash dangers nobody predicted. You solve one threat and accidentally trigger five more.
That actually reminds me of the classic escalation spiral. One country strikes, another retaliates, and pretty soon it's like a row of dominoes toppling. Where do you see the greatest risks right now?
The scariest part is how quickly things can expand. One airstrike invites a missile barrage, then neighboring countries feel they have to respond. Suddenly, it's not just Iran and Israel. The whole region is in turmoil, and global powers can get pulled in too.
It's wild how fast these conflicts can snowball. What started as one border clash might end up dragging in alliances and superpowers halfway around the world.
Exactly. And once that momentum builds, it can feel impossible to put the brakes on. That's why so many experts push for dialogue even in the tensest moments.
Let's look beyond the region for a second. This isn't just a Middle East story. The Strait of Hormuz, for example, if that gets blocked or attacked, global oil prices spike. So how might this war affect people far from the conflict?
If you fill up your car or heat your house, you're connected. Disruptions in oil, shipping can mean higher costs everywhere. Asia, Europe, the US. Even supply chains for basic goods can get shaky.
And it ripples out to stuff like inflation, food prices, even job security. Suddenly, a distant war feels a lot closer to home.
War in one region rarely stays put. That's why so many urge restraint, because the stakes aren't just military, they're economic and human for billions of people.
But when you zoom in, it's not just about governments or oil routes. It's teachers, shopkeepers, kids, people whose only crime is living in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's the heartbreak of it. Behind every headline about strategy or deterrence are families forced into shelters, businesses shuttered overnight, normal life flipped upside down.
And those stories rarely make it into the big political debates. It's easy to talk about war in abstract terms, but for most, it's terrifyingly real.
Maybe the hardest part is knowing that while governments make these choices, it's the people who carry the cost. That's something we can't forget, especially as the news keeps moving so fast.
Funny enough, most wars eventually end with people coming back to the table. Do you think there's still hope for diplomacy this time around?
I have to believe there is. Even when it looks impossible, quiet talks often continue. History is full of wars that ended not with victory, but with exhausted leaders finally sitting down.
Maybe the real question is, how much suffering happens before those talks begin? The sooner, the better. Not just for leaders, but for everyone caught in the crossfire.
And maybe that's the lesson. Negotiation is messy and slow, but it's still better than the chaos of war. The world should keep pushing for those moments, no matter how far off they seem.
So, if we step back, here are 3 things I hope listeners remember. First, wars aren't inevitable. They're the result of choices, often made in fear or mistrust. Second, escalation rarely brings real security. It often spreads chaos far beyond the battlefield. Third, behind every decision are ordinary people whose lives may never be the same.
And if you take one step after this episode, it's to stay curious and stay empathetic. Ask questions about what you hear, and remember, real people live the stories behind the headlines.
Thanks for joining us on Voices of the World. We'll keep following this story as it unfolds, and we hope you'll keep thinking and talking about what peace could really look like.
Until next time, take care, and let's keep the conversation about peace alive, no matter how tough it gets.